For the last 6 years and 7 years, it has been this is the time to talk about this. It's been I've processed it long enough, and I can kind of like generally announce what really happened and whatever. But I've always fallen in and out of love with the idea of notoriety and whatever. So being an artist was always a battle for me. It was always some sort of like weird like fight or something to that degree. But basically, I got to a place in my career, we sold out 10,000 people at Jones Beach. I mean, it was like the height of everything for me, and it was right around the time I figured out how my Live Nation contract worked, and it was right around the time I figured out how my record deal actually worked.
And how did that make you feel?
Oh man, it was like panic attacks. It was like, oh my gosh, if A plus B equals C, like I'm never gonna pay this back. I'm gonna be on the road 11 months a year just trying to pay back, and we can get into that.
But also, like, that's crazy because think about it. You're at the very, very top, but then there's a thing that people don't understand. It's the business part of it.
Yeah, and Live Nation is they're going 12. They're getting everybody coming 12 ways, 12 times a Tuesday. We can get into that, and that's what I'm.
Are you with Live Nation?
No, I paid myself out of the deal, and I had to pay 25% extra on what they advanced me. But it's like when you figure that out on the road, and you're thinking, man, why did we buy 300 rolls of toilet paper? Why do we have to spend this much on catering every day? No one's eating the pizza. We're throwing out pies. Wait a second, what? In my contract it says...
Because it's not their money,
you got to spend this much on catering and it comes out of my pocket?
Yeah.
But then I have to pay an advance back? And by the way, the advance that you have to give me is only on hard ticket sales. So the concept's called peanuts, parking, and alcohol. So when I sell out 10,000 people at Jones Beach, the person who buys a $20 hot dog, I don't see a dime of that. The person who buys $40 for parking, I don't see a dime of that. And the person who buys a $20 vodka and Red Bull, I don't see a dime of that. And then you advance me $1 million and tell me I'm rich to then find out that you're making $4 million a night. And it takes me 36 shows to pay back the $1 million you advanced me.
It's a loan.
It's a fake loan.
It's a fake loan that it's like, we're going to give you a loan so you can make our money off of your creation.
Yes. But I figure, and then it hit me. Oh my gosh, they own all the venues. It's a monopoly. So then now they just want my body in this room so they can sell food and alcohol and whatever. So then they're gonna make tons of money. And then they got me like schlepping around the United States talking about I want to be famous, being on Instagram, trying to be this, that, and the third. So when you figure that out, and at the time, this is right when I first got with my wife, I was having panic attacks. I was like, wait a second. Joe Schmo pays $20 for a hot dog and I don't see that. And if I'm only making my advance back on hard ticket sales, that means I have to sell out every single venue in order to not go in the red because I'm only paying my advance back on hard ticket sales. And by the way, they reserve the right in the contract to put the tickets on sale. So when it's $100 a ticket and they do their summer blowout sale, the tickets are only $10. So instead of me paying back $90 a ticket, right before I go on tour, they drop a Jon Bellion sale and the tickets are only $10. We can get into it, but then you have to pay back the $1 million they gave you off of $10 a ticket rather than the $90 they told you they were going to sell the tickets for. Because now you're doing arenas, now you're doing bigger shows, and they're like, they got you coming 12 times a Tuesday.
When you found all this out, were you in the middle of a tour? Were you still having?
Yeah, I was in the middle of a breakdown. I was in the middle of like oh my god, and then I'm like, if that's the case, what does my record contract look like? What is my publishing contract?
If you don't mind me asking, where was this business mind before you signed the papers?
It's a business mind of a young Italian kid that only knows the lawyer in his neighborhood. That when I was paid $10,000 when I signed my first publishing deal, I thought I was rich forever. You know, I think that's the idea. I think there's somewhat of it's not going to be some like giant, this is the Matrix thing, but like there is a group of people that wait to prey on new ideas that are coming from natural places to then put a amount in front of you that is the most you've ever seen in your life, and you're not realizing what it is. It's like I'm eating ramen noodles every night. You gonna give me 10 grand to make beats when I was selling them for $25 a pop? Like, I'll take that. But, and then you're like 4 years later, you're like, oh, you're catching 86% of my royalties overseas, and yada yada. After you have your first hit, you're like, wait a second. The math's not mathing at all. Like,
there's good news in this, right?
Absolutely.
There's a Christian song that I just recently heard, and it says, if it's not good, it's not over. And I love that line because if it's not good, that means that God's not done with it, right?
To answer you, I'm so sorry. I went so far off because there's so much information, but you said, what's it like to make a hit to make a record for, because the hit you don't control.
Yeah.
The culture controls, God controls that. That's
hey,
a
man,
whole other thing.
I think you control it. Like, very humble of you. I think you control it.
I had a lot of swings. I had a lot of records that didn't work and that did work. I was an artist for myself, and I was creating for myself. And before, by the grace of God, I had a giant record with Eminem and Rihanna, right? That basically paid for me to be like, okay, I could finally be an artist because I could use the money I made from this to fund my artist career.
What was the name of that?
The Monsters.
Yeah. You control it, man.
I was
no big deal. Did you see how he didn't even name it?
Like, I'm so
Yeah.
over it.
He's like, I just did a little thing with the Rihanna. It's no big deal.
Yeah. It's so funny. Let's talk about all the other hits I have recently. That's the old hit. My brain starts talking to myself. Say the right thing at the right time. So when my whole contract thing started to really dissipate in my mind, it's like it opened up this whole reality of what this whole thing was. And I as my wife is my witness, it was 10,000 people at Jones Beach in my hometown. It's crazy. This early is terrible to get emotional already. I got off stage. I said, I'm done. I'm done.
So you stopped your tour?
You said you're done,
I finished my tour.
but you're not.
Oh, no, absolutely. But it's just like, I've had this conversation millions of times for the last 6 years. And I've been so blessed to make music for other people, to keep my ideas alive. Like John Batiste, Bieber, talented people, man, that have decided to work with me, that I'm in a better position now to release my own stuff. I'm gonna have to go on a tear, but I want to move back home. I just, all right, God, it's all right.
You submitted.
It's over for me. I told my wife I'm gonna work at McDonald's. It's over. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm gonna have a studio in the basement. I'll work with my friends and we'll see what happens. And it was like, pew, 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 hit after hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. And it was like, I'm just very grateful looking back on it, because it's just like, this is the first time I told the story. So when you see I don't have social media on my phone. I haven't had it for 6 years.
Yeah, I asked him to go on YouTube yesterday, and he literally went to WW. I go, hey man, are you 50? What do you get the app? He goes, no, dude, I don't. And then I texted him this morning. By the way, like, just to paint you a picture, we pull up to this beautiful house. And I could cut this if you don't want me to put this in. But I pulled up to this beautiful house, and I was like, wow.
You could leave it.
I pulled up to this beautiful house, and I was like, this is very humble of him. You know, like, I don't know how much he makes. This is a very humble house. So I pulled in, and I go, wow, this is so beautiful. I'm like, kind of like weird. He gave me the code to the house, and no one's here. It's a little invasive. I didn't even bring my bags.
We were walking in like this because we thought, we're like, should we be walking in?
And so I walk in and I go into the backyard and I slide open the door and I'm looking out the backyard and I see the neighbor. I'm like, wow, that is a big house. And I see the backyard and I see the grass and I was like, dude, and I'm sitting on stones, but I realize the stones are continuing through a gate to go into this house. And I go, is this his fucking guest house? I go, no way. No way this is his guest house. I turn around, I go, Reed, I think this is his guest house, bro. I think we're in his guest house. And Reed's like, no, dude, this is the house. I go, no, I get that this is the house, but I think he draked us, bro. I think he bought the next door's house. And he goes, no. And then I text him and I go, hey man. He goes, yeah, come on over. I go, this is his fucking guest house.